All right. We on? Okay, great. Thank you, Olga. It's funny when I'm introduced a lead judge, this is probably the perfect place to explain the A. So when I first started speaking and doing online content, I Googled my name, lead judge. There's a Kansas City cartoonist that's been around for years named Lead Judge. I thought, there's no way I'll ever hit first page for my own name. So my first name actually is Alexander. So I said, well, it's time to be a lead judge. And so now I can actually own the home page for my own name. So that was my first win. All right, so content for the robots. First disclosure, I'm not a robot. I have emotions. I do love to find patterns in things. But in terms of the emotional part, I hope you'll give a good rating to this presentation. In this presentation, the robot, of course, is referred to as it's the algorithm we're talking about, the Google algorithm. Now, of course, the other search engines have their algorithms as well, but if you can win with Google, then you're pretty much good with the rest of them as well. So since only a few people actually know the algorithm, you'll see people write that there's 100 or even 1,000. The number's always changing on how many data points they use for search engine ranking. It's always changing, but the truth is nobody really knows except for a few people and, of course, some robots. So what I'll do is try to lead you in the right direction and give you some tips. I'm not going to go into, this is not a extreme data, super nerdy session. I'm going to give you some cool things as creators. What can you do today to make your content rank better, okay? We're going to get into the weeds a little bit, but just enough for you to go tell somebody else, hey, you're hurting my content. Go fix this stuff, all right? Okay, so I found this quote when I was putting the presentation together that says, I hate the word content. It implies words on a page, a commodity to be produced separated from the value it creates. So taking it the way that Cyrus Shepard meant it was basically we can't start creating content with the idea of creating content, to just do something we're supposed to do, to just, hey, this thing is popular, let's create content. We have to make sure we create it with value in mind first. But I'll take it a bit further. As I analyze this, I realize it's not just words. Most of the time when we talk about SEO for our content, we go really deep into the text on our pages and how to rewrite our articles and our blogs and our websites based on the text. But there's a whole lot more to it. As a content creator, we create lots of content from graphic stuff to audio to video, and all those things are important in SEO. And as Google gets smarter and smarter, we have to be sure to address those things. So as content creators, what is our goal? Well, we always want up and to the right. I used to have a CEO who would often walk down the hallway and just yell, up and to the right, up and to the right. Basically, that's what our goals are. We want to create views and engagement with our content and make things go up and to the right. But there's a little bit of a problem with that. So as we create content, we have to make sure that content gets the attention of the robots. And here's a few things that we often miss when we're trying to create that content. First, we lead by our own biases. We lack the proper research, whether it be keyword research or understanding how the content we're creating will be viewed by Google. We ignore the technical steps because sometimes you have siloed departments in your organization between the creatives, the ones who are writing, the ones who are technical on the website. All those things must work together to make your content rank. It's often unclear to the gatekeeper, the robot, what you're talking about. We'll get into how to make sure that the robot understands the point you're trying to get across. Did I miss one? Oh, yeah. Overlooks multimedia formats, and we're definitely going to dive into that today. Okay, so the goal is to create content for the robot while at the same time trying to think like a human. The robot's trying to think like a human, and we have to always keep those two elements in mind, right? You want the human element, the emotion, the right content that's readable and understandable and engaging, but at the same time, the robot has to understand what you're saying and find what you're saying and favor it to present it to the human. So you're influencing the robot while you're creating for a human. You're creating for a human while influencing the robot. So we're going to talk about these 4 content types today and some tactics of how to address these 4. Images, text, audio, and video. All right? So pictures, images. A picture paints 1,000 points of data. There's a lot more to that image than, well, it's pleasing to my viewer on my web page. There's a lot more to it to that. So let's get into it. Google has this product that it sells called Cloud Vision. Now, this product is something they sell as something totally separate from SEO, but we know that it's Google's product, and we know they're using it within their own algorithm. So it would make sense to understand that if they're using this, they have ability to understand images to this level, then we want to use that information to better suit our images, the content we create, to make sure that it is appealing to the robot. Here's an example. So Google's image analysis tool classifies uploaded images, meaning images on your website. Objects, labels, web entities, text, properties, safe search, and even faces. There's a tool that I'll show you a link to. In fact, all of these slides and these tools will be on my website at contentmonsta.com/resources. They're all there, so don't worry about getting the links if they're too small for you to see. This is an image that I uploaded that was actually a stock image, and I picked it on purpose to find one that was busy, to see what Google thought of this busy image, and it nailed it. Supermarket, retail, even recognized there's a customer in the aisle. So that was very impressive. Now, let's go a bit further. I said, let me just upload my own photo and see what happens. And, there's actually a tab that tells you what the person's expression is. I came out as very serious. It showed a beard, all those kind of things. But I want to show this one. This kind of surprised me of how well they nailed me. Marketing, digital marketing, company advertising, CMO, founder, all those things are exactly me. Now, it found that because that image, of course, is on multiple websites, and on those websites come those words, and so it is associated that image, which is a unique image to me. It's not a stock image. It's only an image that I've produced, but it's also related to certain sites. So it will help Google to understand where this image goes, and if you Google A-League Judge, this image should probably come up because of all the places it's associated with that name. Well, funny thing is, before I began going so deep into marketing, I think my first marketing roots began years ago, separate lifetime. I was an international touring DJ. That's a part of life that it was great. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot about personal branding, and I had to live by my personal brand. But I'm okay with people forgetting about that part of my life. Well, Google didn't. I uploaded that picture, and Google said, yeah, this picture is a disc jockey. He loves to wear glasses. He has a mustache, radio personality. His name is DJ Judgmental. I don't know what maybe its time was. Maybe it's time to retire. I don't know what that came from. But it nailed it. Same picture, same person, different picture, but it recognized all the web entities that those images were associated with. So think about that when you add an image to your page. Is this a stock image that, oh, wait, I got to stop on this one. I uploaded a picture of me and Joe from last year. Now, I took the picture because I was admiring Joe's totally orange outfit, down to the shoes. And it recognized right down to the text on our badges what was in the image. Of course, it's not perfect, and this is block, I guess, 12 to 15 out of 20, 30 blocks that it recognized. But it recognized, even recognized that there were two men wearing pants. It recognized the logos. It recognized the image in the background. And it also picked up on our names pretty accurately. Recognized beard and receding hairline. Okay, no, didn't get that one, but it'd be accurate if it did. Maybe I didn't scroll far enough. So let's talk about the images you choose. What if you choose a stock image? Now, we all know it costs more to go out and get a photographer for your website for certain images, but even if you use stock, you need to think about that image and how it's being used. This is a stock image, and Google was able to tell me in this tool where this image had been used. So it may be a good idea to use this tool to upload an image you're considering using to see where it's at, to make sure it isn't already associated with something that's either bigger than your brand or opposing your brand, right? So this particular image, it linked to Amazon, Unsplash, where it came from, free photos. They do have good ones, but you got to consider what you're doing with it. Facebook, in fact, one of the most popular one was a Facebook page from a university that used this image as one of their students. I made the mistake of clicking on the Amazon link. I'm thinking, why is Amazon linking to this? Well, it linked to the glasses she's wearing, and now Amazon's chasing me down to buy these glasses. So careful when you use the tool what you click on, because Amazon. But if you overuse free images, you can forget the SEO juice for that image, right? So if you Google something, you're going to see along with regular results, you'll often see image results. And then, of course, there's an image tab with totally all image results. So keep that in mind when you use images. So a study by Backlinko, they're an awesome website that does a lot of research on SEO, Brian Dean. Their research showed that at least one image made a significant improvement on your results. Now, they also found that once you get 2, 3, or 4 or more, it didn't hurt, but it didn't help either. So the key thing was to make sure there is an image at least. All right? So to wrap up images, does Google rank based on images? Well, here's what we know. In the past, they've been quoted saying that they would in the future. That was 2011. This is the future. All right? They obviously are more intelligent. They have the tools to recognize what's in images, what the images are about. So if you know they're being analyzed, why would you not want to make sure you're more careful about the images you use in your content? And also the fact that I mentioned, too, if you want to show for your image, for example, if you are very product-oriented, say you're a retail shop, say you're a bakery, there's a million stock photos of cakes, but if you want to be associated with a certain kind of cake, a certain cake, you want to use your images and not anything that's stock. That goes for anything retail or commercial, anything else. All right? At the very least, do the basic stuff of getting your captions and your descriptions and your file names and your text. All those things you should do for images, but know there's a lot more to it from Google's point of view. All right, so let's get into the things you hear about the most, which is the text content. So the most valuable of all talents, according to Thomas Jefferson, is using 2 words when one will do. I'll alter that just a little bit and say, well, you don't want to use even 2 words without considering the metadata. Let's do a quick group exercise here. We're going to split the room. This side of the room, you all are a large real estate firm, okay? And you want to be the best, well-known, most up and to the right real estate firm in your area, mostly non-commercial, and you want to run some Google ads. You want to make sure you put the right keywords into your content about your real estate company. So with some hands, can someone give me some words you think you might want to show, to search for, or to have in your campaign? Buying and selling. Okay. All right, big, since you all are kind of far away, we'll just say buying, selling. All right, any other keywords? You're a real estate company, what are you? Residential. All right. We'll just do a few for the sake of time, maybe one more. House. All right. All right. I'm taking a risk here because I have some really educated people here, so I want to make sure I don't put myself in a corner. All right, this side. You're a young family, 1.5 kids, you tired of your apartment, you want to move to a good neighborhood, and you're searching for a home. What do you search for? Best school districts. All right, schools. Anything else? Family neighborhood. Just put fam neighborhood. Horrible writing. All right. Number of bedrooms. Put bedrooms. All right, you got those kids, you got to put them somewhere. One more. Parks. All right. Are we seeing a problem here yet? That's what we do. We often think about things in terms of what we think is important in our business. And we're not thinking about what our customers are actually searching for. So we have to really focus on how do your customers talk about what you offer. Let me give you an example of a case study I did. Well, before that, I'm going to go a little even further outrageous. Let's say you're starting a new company, and you're being creative with your name and what your offering is, and you're trying to find homes for homeless or abandoned cats. You say, you know what? I'm going to advertise for pre-owned cats. Yeah, kind of ridiculous, but we've all seen things that are just as bad. So first of all, Google's going to try to correct you and say, that's ridiculous. Nobody's going to do a search term pre-owned cats. He must mean cars. And there are all the results. Pre-owned cars. The result is robots won't find your pre-owned cats company. The prospects certainly won't find you because Google's not going to help. The robot is going to be like, they're crazy. We don't know what this is. This is brand new. And, of course, your pet store will, like my mic just did. Okay. So here's a real case. It's a little closer to reality. This is a case that I worked with a few years ago. They were a software company, and they have some amazing software that's in the chatbot area, but theirs was much more intelligent. Their chatbot would be able to connect to a company's back end. They could load up the company's whole entire knowledge base, all their product manuals, any knowledge a company had digitized, their chatbot could access it. And what that meant was that not only could the customers visiting their website get information from their chatbot, even the customer service agents, when they're talking to you on the phone, can also ask their own personal assistant chatbot, okay, this person just asked for a discount there in Kansas, can I do this? Chatbot looks through the information and says, no, only on October that ended. So the chatbot was really, really sophisticated. So the company said, okay, let's go out and make sure that for all our competitors who do chatbots, that we're showing up wherever they're showing up. So what they found was, okay, here's the PPC keywords you want to go after. Our industry, our competition, they're all getting traffic from chatbots, customer service, call center automation, and customer service chat. So here's where the communication between your departments comes in key. While the one team, the marketing team, is working on finding the right keywords to pay for ads, the product team is guiding another different department on how we're going to redo the website to make sure we're ready for this launch for these new products. So what they do is they go make a new web page and use all their awesome words of exactly what they do. Intelligent assistant, intelligent self-service, agent assistant, customer assistant. These are all things that product said, this is what we're going to call our product. It's different, it's special, it's not just a chatbot. We won't be known for chatbot because we're so much better than that. Well, they ran ads on chatbot, different department. They pointed those ads to the intelligent assistants and the intelligent self-service page. I'm sure you can imagine what happened. When you run those words to those pages, Google just bounced back off. Does anybody actually run any AdWords campaigns? Okay, so you may have seen on the back end after you've launched some keywords, Google will tell you your ad's not running. And the natural tendency is to go, why? And it says, not relevant. Their campaign was just blood red but not relevant because they paid for chatbot. You click on it, or the robot goes to it and says, oh, this page does not even have chatbot on it. This is about intelligent assistant. This is some new technology, and it bounces back. So you get a bounce. You get a bad experience. That's what Google's going to assume that you got because people did click and bounce back. And also, the biggest thing is the relevance. If the page does not mention the actual thing that your customers are typing and looking for, even if you have a higher level technology or you have a new term, you need to at least say, in this case, our product is more than a chat bot. It is an intelligent assistant. That way the robots can tell that this page is relevant to the words that you are actually advertising. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that your PPC keywords always match the page that they're pointing to. All right, so lesson 2 regarding text. There's a few technical things you want to do to make sure that after you create all this great content, that your web department doesn't ruin it with awesome designs that don't stick and help your content be seen by the robots. We won't go too deep, but we will cover these 4 things: header structure, page title, page description, and keyword density, and a really nerdy level of something called TD-IDF. Okay, this is a tool that I use. There's many of the tools you can get. I suggest you get some kind of browser, Chrome, or extension that will allow you to quickly examine any page that you're on. There's a link later on I'll send for that. But SEO MetaClick is just one, and it's one that I use. I use it not only to click on my own company's websites, I also look at competitors to see what their descriptions are, how do they describe themselves, so that if I'm trying to compete with them, then I want to make sure that our titles are similar. I want to make sure our description is in the same realm, that I'm not trying to sell, pet cats or let's say previously owned cats when they're selling abandoned cats. So I want to make sure that I'm on the same page as my competitors. This is a great tool to do it for anybody's site. It's a Chrome extension. So in this example, the title is really well. There's a certain number of characters you should have for a title that helps you tell you if you're over or under. Your description is there also. It also will look at your images to make sure your images, have titles on them and that you haven't named them logo or image number 1. It should be abandoned cat, so that they know what the image is, okay? Help Google out. And this is one I'm really peculiar about because this is where form over function really hits home. Because as a creator, you'll probably never look at the back end to see how your designer labeled your fonts and in fact, fonts will almost always drive what the designer does over the function of your website. So in this example, this site has one H1, several H2s, and a bunch of H3s. Let me show you what happened to me personally on my website. I asked my designer to update this page. Of course, I want it to look good. And so before I show you what happened, of course, the H1s are what the page is about. So make sure your H1 is your title. There should only be one H1. The H2 is the main points on the page. Think about when you did your outline in elementary school. It should definitely have your title and then what that page is about to let Google know systematically what's the most important, the second most important, third most important. These are your H tags. So if you create a page, whether it be a blog article or a page, you upload it, and you look back and these are out of order, then you want to talk to your web team to make sure that they do it right. They may say, but hey, our H2 font is too big or it's ugly. You need to ask them to fix it, otherwise your effort can go to waste. So here's a mistake I saw on my site. So the designer, in order to get those arrows and the font size he wanted, he went down to H4, which basically demotes the importance of those 4 items that I wanted to make sure the viewer of the robot, more so, understood what that page was about. So I went in and fixed it myself. I lost my beautiful little check marks, but in that case, the function was much more important than the form. The viewer's not going to say, this page has bullet points instead of check marks. I'm going to keep on going. The function was much more important, so now we have a much better flow of having the H3s in place like they should be. All right. So don't be this guy. This page, it was so embarrassing, I took off their title and URL so I didn't call anybody out. But on this page, it had 20 H1s. So the robot's going, what the focus? 20 H1s, no H2s, no H3s. It's just a mess. The robot really has no idea what this page is about because those 20 H1s, they were beautiful. Beautiful font, perfect sizing and everything. But every section had a different topic because they were actually subtopics of a bigger one that didn't have an H1. And so that page had 20 topics on it, which just didn't fly. So I said, well, this is probably one of the worst case scenarios. Let me go to somebody who I know is going to have it really, really sharp. So I'll go to Neil Patel's site. You all know of Neil Patel, I'm sure. So Neil's site, of course, he teaches this stuff. He's going to have it right, and it was perfect, just as I expected before I even looked at it. 1 H1, H2, H3s, title, description. If anybody should have it right, you would expect this guy to have it right, and it's perfect. So this is what you're looking for when you look at one of your own pages that your company has designed, especially your blog articles, to make sure that these things are in order like this. All right. So here's the nerdy part. I think I did TD earlier. So TF-IDF. That is really, if you Google this term, you're going to find a long white paper with so much detail, you're going to say, well, I'm a content creator or marketer. I'm not a rocket scientist. This is a statistical term that outdates SEO, but it's utilized. And for our own purposes, even though it's a bit more, we can just look at it as keyword density. But there's more to it than just keyword density. It's about having the amount of relevant content that you have relative to other websites other than yours. So let's look at this scenario. Let's say you're selling chocolate chip cookies, and you have a web page that's, say, unfocused. You sell cookies. That's what your company is. You sell cookies, and you have one page, you have all the best cookies you have to sell. Chocolate chip, sugar, double fudge, rainbow. Your competitor has a page for each one of those cookies. And on their chocolate chip page, they have chocolate chip mentioned multiple times. In other words, they take each page and they go deep in that subject, okay? If you have products or services, if you have the bandwidth, be sure to go deep on each one rather than spraying it across one product page. That's where TF-IDF comes in. It means to have enough relevant content, not just relative to your data set on your website, but to all websites you're competing with, okay? So the takeaway on that is basically to go deeper and more relevant than just mentioning your high-level stuff, okay? One last thing about text is robots love to eat. Now, I don't know how many of you have, there's sites called YMYL. It's Your Money, Your Life. That's your insurance, your health care. Do you have anybody in here who has those kind of sites? Yeah, I see you nodding like, yeah, it's okay. So Google is a lot more stringent on those sites because you can really affect people's lives. Your money, your life. So in this case, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness is really, really big. It's under a lot more scrutiny. Now, that isn't to say that your site that is not a YMYL site doesn't fall under the same scrutiny because you can still benefit from it if you have these three things in your content. So what's the formula? Well, here's a rough formula. At least 1,200 words, more is better, 1,200 to 2,000. 3 to 5 images, 2 to 5 videos. This isn't exact science, it's more art, but this is what research shows that trends right about now. Again, make sure your tags are in place and in order and the right number of them. Your meta descriptions organized correctly. You're linking both internally within your site. No page on your site should not be connected to another page on your site. And of course, table of contents. This is one that's you're starting to see more and more of. It's basically you have a long article. So now that we've gotten to the 2,000 word long article and our attention spans may not get us to the bottom, the table of contents serves a couple of purposes. One, it's that bullet point at the top of your article that says, here are the things that are in this article. Basically listing out like listing out your H2s and linking down to jump down to that part of the article. But aside from the user experience of giving them a chance to jump to the section they're most interested in, it also allows Google to see a quick picture of what your answer is. Speaking of answer, you know when you Google now, you're going to see more answers, and you'll see the little glider, what do you call it, accordion box of your answers. This feeds into that. If you're structured correctly and you answer questions and your table of content is structured correctly, then that table of content can feed into an accordion and, of course, tell the robot that you have a very clear set of answers for those questions. All right, so here's just a few tools. There's links on the website again, but interesting thing about these is item D on the free, Google Autocomplete. Now, many of these programs started and built on the fact that when you type in a keyword, Google auto-completes that keyword. So if you type in content, it may autocomplete with marketing or content creation. These tools take that concept and even take the data they're scraping and create these other tools like Ubersuggest, Answer to Public, and with those websites, you can type in your keyword and it'll give you adverbs to go with it. It'll give you the who, the what. So if you're trying to answer a question, it'll tell you what are the questions being asked around this term. So you type in the term and it tells you, oh, people right now are asking these questions about your content or your term. So those are great. And of course, I'm glad I put SEMrush on here. Would have been pretty awkward had I not. I didn't know you were going to be here. So yeah, and the #1 spot at that. How lucky is that? All right. All right, let's go to audio content. My dad, when he explained things to me growing up, he would always explain it and say, see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? So now it has a whole new meaning. So because Google definitely sees what you're saying, and there's multiple ways that's happening. Here's a video I love.
Hey, Google. Okay, Google.
What's the weather? Yeah.
What's the weather, ask?
What the weather? You want to know what is the weather?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
In Flagler Beach tomorrow, there will be showers with a high of 65 and a low of 56.
With this.
Watch it there.
I'm scared. I'm scared. It's a mystery. Oh my gosh. No.
She says, it's a mystery. I love that.
Okay.
Oop. I could watch it again, but we won't go. Go ahead. So that shows that your content is favored when it answers questions. As we're heading towards more and more voice searches, the current stats, I think ComStat said that by 2020, which is weird when you hear a stat that's like a few months away, half of searches will be by voice. So you want to make sure your content is answering questions. What are, how to, how do I, top 10 list, top whatever list. You want to have 1 or 2 sentence answers in your first paragraph that clearly answer that question. Now, this doesn't mean go build a whole bunch of pages with just 2 paragraphs to answer questions. It means that you start out with those very clear answers, and then you support it with deep content that shows your authority in answering that question. All right? Think about the optimized featured snippet. What is that page about? Coincidentally, I couldn't help but throw this slide in last minute because I use Google, Alexa, and Siri, and poor Cortana, I try to avoid that. In terms of accuracy and correct answers, there's no surprise that Google's in the lead. In terms of their smart assistant answering questions the best, well, because they own the data that even Alexa and Siri are answering on most cases. In fact, being an Apple fanboy, I hate to say that Siri, more often than giving me an answer, gives me a website with the answer. But that's good for us, because if that's your website and Siri can't give the answer, she says, I found this for you on the web. And then it gives your website. So in that essence, Siri's on our side there because she's not as biased as Google is, and she's going to give us what on the web. Okay. Podcasts. Has anybody heard anybody this week say it's time to podcast? Okay. I thought maybe somebody had heard that. Well, I'm fully behind podcasts because from podcasts you can generate so much other content. It's not just that the audio is an awesome place to be in terms of search engine optimization. It's also that, from podcasts, you can transcribe those into blogs. You can also add your show notes, which gives you a chance to add in more rich content, videos, or links to the content you talked about. And here's the part I love the most. Podcasts are full of natural language. As marketers, we love to talk marketing. If we start creating content, we're only a paragraph in before we start throwing in marketing jargon. Well, podcasts typically, because they're more conversational, are more likely to be less jargon-filled, less markety, and of course more original because they're usually off the cuff and they're conversational. Except for those where, there's one that comes to mind that I will not mention, that it's from ones that are over-scripted. For podcasts, I would totally advise against scripting your podcast to an extent. Have an outline. Because the scripted ones, you end up reading the script, you read the markety stuff, you lose the conversation, you're less original. So try to find people who can have a good conversation about your topics to give original content that is not marketing. All right? So when I learned this, I had to start Googling my own podcast to see what happened because I almost didn't believe we're at this point. So Google recently began to include playable podcast episodes directly within its search engine results. So even though I had to go a bit specific because we're kind of early in this, I just put in my name and the title of my podcast, Business of Content, and lo and behold, the bottom of the page not only showed the list of the most recent episodes in the search results, right? So this isn't text, it isn't an image. Now they're showing an audio result, okay? Beyond that, I click on the result, and it takes me to a player. I am listening to my latest episode in the search results. Audio matters, definitely matters. So now, in regards to audio, here's some audio actions you should take right now. Repurpose your text video into audio. I don't mean read your text video on a podcast. I mean repurpose it into audio. Have a conversation about text you've already made. You may have blog articles that are really great topics. Pull up the article, have a conversation, record it. There's a new podcast episode. All right? Still, make sure your audio answers questions because that audio will be seen as text in some version, whether by you or by the robots when they transcribe it. Add descriptions to your podcast. I don't know if you caught any of the podcast sessions yesterday, but there is a science behind podcast meta the same way there is behind text meta. You want to make sure it's all there. And of course, you want to make sure you distribute it to Google's platform as well. It's the same thing like YouTube. Whether or not that's your primary platform, I mean, the #1 platform for podcasts is Apple. You may have your own video platform on your website, but you have to use their platform because they're going to be biased to the search results. So feed the robot. Why not? All right? Speaking of video content, we're almost tired of the phrase content is king, despite the fact that it's still true. I dive deeply into video, so I just pretty much say, okay, that's the queen, and we know who runs the castle. Right now, that's the case with video. So there's more than meets the eye. It wasn't supposed to be a Transformers reference there, but I saw it later on. That's what it pretty much is. So let's talk about what happens with your video. You definitely want to have the same attitude in terms of meta for your video. And this is the one that's often overlooked, is front-loading your video title with keywords. Let me give an example. If you have top 10 products in XYZ industry, we'll say top 10 products, top 10 vacuum cleaners today. You don't want to start off with top 10 vacuum cleaners as your title. You want to go vacuum cleaners, top 10, or vacuum cleaners, here are the best. Front load your titles with metadata with the correct words. Be accurate with your title and description. Don't try to game the system by adding in words or descriptions that don't apply to the video, because Google will find you out no matter what you put in your description. And also, don't over tag your YouTube videos, because, well, Google, they'll know that eventually they'll look at the text and see this video is not about what they tagged, and you don't want to start tagging competitors or keywords that don't match. Just don't do it. Use only a few relevant ones. And again, always have a YouTube version. It doesn't matter if your company uses Brightcove or Vimeo or Vidyard or Wistia. I love them all, and I even advise customers to use them because of their statistics, their looks, their design. They're awesome companies. I work with them all, but I always say have a copy on YouTube. Once again, feed the robot. You can't ignore the fact that Google, the biggest search engine, is going to analyze the crap out of that video and figure out what it's about and present it as results if you put it there. So you cannot ignore it. So, speaking of the robot knowing what's in your video, they definitely see what you're saying. They auto-transcribe. Has anybody been auto-transcribing their videos or using YouTube for transcription? Okay. So, it isn't 100% accurate. If you use transcriptions, I would always say to either go in and clean up what YouTube does, because there won't be good punctuation or capitalization. The grammar is horrible, but it tells a robot what it needs to know. So just by uploading a video, it's going to be very clear as to what your video is about. Even if you don't give it description in the correct title, it's still there. Here's an example of video that I uploaded, and within minutes, this was already there. It read the video, it knew what I had said in the video, there was no description on the video yet, and it knew exactly what the video was about. So don't underestimate video thinking, well, this is just video. When you upload video, you're uploading text, all right? So be sure to keep that in mind. If you're writing a script, write the script keyword heavy. Write the script the same way you would with anything else you write. Keep the algorithm in mind. Be careful of what you say and mindful of what you say, I should say, in your content. And to next. Okay. So again, for all of the platforms, still want to get an SRT file. An SRT file is basically your caption file. There's several ways to do it. You can either, if you let YouTube transcribe for you, you can clean it up and download it. It takes a little bit of time, but you can do that. I advise people to use other third-party services, like and I love Rev. Rev does a great job at transcribing. They have an AI element, and in the end, a human element to make sure that the punctuation is right. And then you upload that SRT file to Facebook or LinkedIn or other video hosts like Wistia to make sure that the video is accompanied with the text so that the robot knows what you're saying or hears what you're saying. All right? So here's your action item summary as I wrap up. Text, review the page meta. Do not let your web design or your web department kill your content by improperly formatting your content. It may look beautiful, but there may be some back and forth on, hey, I love this font, but it's an H4, H5. Can you please, you can do code to make it, to fake it so it knows that it is H2 or 3. Always update your information. Go back to your existing blogs, put more information, update your stats, your links. Images. Update your images with the keywords in mind. Okay, so your meta, of course, but also make sure that image, if your image were to be a keyword, like, okay, this is a picture of a house. This should show a house. I've had a client who was really bent on outdoor life. That's who he was. And so their software website was full of mountain bikes and water skis. I'm like, this is not good for your SEO because there's no pictures of software or of your client type on the website. So now we all know what Google is doing to analyze those images. Make sure you have images that are relevant to your website. Same thing with video. Pay attention to your meta and do more video. Now that we know that video is more than just a video, it's also the text, it's also the audio, it's also result in search engine. Do more video right now. You'll be ahead of the curve because while it's existed on websites, the ability to create faster and more video and more realistic, authentic video, the price point has come down quite a bit, so there's no excuse to wait for the big production company to produce video. And with audio, create searchable audio. You know podcast, the wave is here, but now you understand why it's important to ride that wave because podcast audio can, A, become so much more, plus it's also very searchable by the robots. All right, so that's it for me. Thank you. Awesome. So I think we have some questions.
Thank you so much, Haley. Now there's time for the questions, and I'll just grab the mic, and then I'll round around.
I'll talk slowly so she can run to the back of the room and get back with the microphone. Yeah, so it's exciting times. I mean, as a content creation company, we have to really think about doing more than just text and how all that multimedia really plays into your search engine optimization. Hey.
Hi, I'm a industrial manufacturing company. We sell to engineers, and we sell them components. We do a lot of webinars through affiliate trusted publishers.
Yes.
And most of those webinars get hosted on that publication with links to them. Should we be thinking about repurposing them into podcasts?
Absolutely. So the first thing I would try to do is get the file. I know we're working with third parties. Sometimes part of their sales pitches will host it for you. We have it. By all means, from the start of the negotiation, get the file. That way you can put it on your page. You can optimize in your way, drive traffic after the events over to your properties, right? In terms of webinars, it depends on how long or how dry your webinars are. But in terms of repurposing, at very least, you could take parts of the webinar, right? So if you have an hour-long webinar, if it's exciting, if it's flowing well, then by all means, podcast it. In fact, if you have a solid series of webinars, which I think you mentioned, yes, it would be very good to repurpose those into podcasts. Now, understand that you want to take extra measures to make sure your audio is good, okay? So you want to make sure that your platform that you use to create the webinar gives you good audio. But if your audience is used to that, and if it works, then I would definitely say the hardest part about podcasts is keeping it going, right? And if you already have a steady stream of webinars, then you've already won half the battle. So absolutely. And then take those little chunks of those hot moments in that webinar and repurpose them for social snippets. Make audiograms, which is a video of that conversation for a social.